Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you guys have been waiting for. I just want to preface this and say that if you do not want spoilers to this movie,
Oh yeah.
pause it, watch it the minute after you watch the movie.
Add this video to your watch list on YouTube.
Yes.
Watch the movie, come back, and open this video up.
That's it.
Because now the spoilers are everywhere.
There was too many things in this movie that we just couldn't stay hush about. We have
Yeah.
to talk about everything.
Yeah, because talking about a spoiler-free, having a spoiler-free review is basically like, hey guys, remember that part? Remember that part?
Yeah.
And
We
it's
can't
like,
really say it.
yeah. So let's just go on with it. So,
Life is a mystery.
gentlemen,
Well, let's start with the numbers first, because this
okay,
thing is
that's what I wanted
blowing
to do.
up the
I-
box
yes,
office.
okay.
Massive numbers.
Massive numbers. Massive numbers so much that today is July 29th when we're recording this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So far worldwide, this movie has made $438 million. That means it made back its budget and its marketing budget. Anything after this is pure profit for them. And like I said about Inside Out 2, I guarantee you this movie is going to make it to the $1 billion mark. Now, not only that, but let's add a little zing to this, right? As a rated R film, this movie has broke a tremendous
record.
amount of records. And I'm
Yeah.
just going to go real quick on this because there's a lot. So, biggest global opening since Avatar: The Way of the Water? Beat it. Biggest domestic opening for Ryan Reynolds and for Hugh Jackman. Biggest domestic opening for a filmmaker, Sean Levy. Highest July opening of all time at the domestic box office, even beating out Oppenheimer, but losing to The Lion King. What else? We got, it is the highest grossing film franchise of all. Oh, sorry. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is the highest grossing film franchise with $30 billion spanning through 34 titles. We have, it is the number 6th highest domestic opening weekend of all time.
Keep it coming.
Yeah. Oh, we're 6th highest opening day at the box office at $90 million for a rated R film. Remember that.
Which is nuts.
Right.
Which is really nuts.
Number 4, highest superhero opening of all time behind Endgame, Spider-Man No Way Home, and Avengers Infinity War. So it's number 4. It is the number 2 highest opening weekend for a third installment of all time, behind Avengers Endgame.
Oh, damn.
Yep. What else? Highest opening weekend ever for a US R-rated release with $233 million internationally, worldwide meaning. Highest opening weekend abroad since Avatar: The Way of the Water. So not only has it won domestic and worldwide records, this movie is crazy. Guys, I don't know. What?
Well, now we talk about the movie itself and why it's been so successful, because there's definitely a lot to discuss there.
A lot.
So
A lot. I'm going to take a breather because that was a lot.
Yeah. Pancakes, let's start with you.
So this was way more than a movie. This was an experience. This was an event that just was so mind-blowing, jaw-dropping, breathtaking. I'm running out of words. And just to go right into the beginning, Big Grim sitting right next to me said maybe one of the greatest movie openings ever, when he, when he has that fight scene with the TVA agents and absolutely destroys them, kills them, tortures them.
Wild dancing to bye, bye, bye.
And killing them all with
What a-
Wolverine's adamantium bones.
What a
Right.
what a dance sequence in between. And we heard leading up to it, they're gonna leave Logan alone, they're not gonna change anything. So they never said, let's go right after the events of Logan.
Right.
Like, dig up his corpse, you see the suit, you see the beer from Logan.
I loved like the moment that the movie started with like like just addressing the Logan thing, because that was the first thing on everybody's mind is the moment they even announced that Wolverine was going to be in this. I was one of the naysayers of like, how could you bring him back after everything that happened to Logan? And Deadpool comes up saying like, I know you're wondering about Logan, and like, would we desecrate his grave? Like, would we like respect his grave or some of that? And he'd be like, and he basically said like, no, we're not. And you just see like Deadpool just like shoveling madly away and just screaming like when he opens up, like, there's no way he's dead. And he just sees like the skeleton left. And he's just like, fuck, and he just starts going nuts.
Motherfucker.
And then you just like see him sitting like next to the skeleton. And it's just like from then on, I just knew like, okay, this is Deadpool. Like we're getting a hell of a Deadpool movie. That's all I could say.
I do agree with Big Grim though. Probably the best opening to a superhero movie ever.
Or maybe any movie. I mean, it's probably recently biased, but that was so incredibly done.
Definitely the funniest. Absolutely the
100%.
funniest superhero opening ever.
And the fact that he even took the claws off the corpse to like
Yeah. So he could
to
use it
use
as his own weaponry. Yeah, that was great.
I mean, it kind of spoiled the soundtrack with the announcement, and you saw and sing "Bye Bye Bye," which is not a surprise, but to see the part of the movie and the sequence they use it for, phenomenal. So,
and one more other thing, bringing that up, they used the whole song. They played "Bye Bye Bye" through the whole song was played.
That's
whole fight scene, there was a whole fight scene through the whole track. So if that song is 3-4 minutes long, there is a fight scene going on the whole time.
It was perfect.
You heard it playing. So I was very surprised.
I mean, it wouldn't have surprised me that was Ryan Reynolds in costume doing the dance moves. No, it turned out it was a professional dancer in the Deadpool costume, but it wouldn't have surprised me if he took the time
To actually learn the moves.
Yeah, but they made it work how what we got on screen for that part of the movie.
So moving forward after that was the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Oh my god. Oh wow.
What did you guys think of the initial plot of this whole movie?
So like Deadpool, that was one thing I don't want to say worried about it, but like Deadpool 1 and 2, like he always had a straightforward like no extra frills or bells and whistles type of story. Like you knew exactly where he had to go, who the main villain was, what he's got to do. He's just got to kill the guy. Great. It's but with Deadpool, it's the journey along the way that counts, right? The characters are kind of simple, the story is pretty simple, but it's just how he gets there and how he is as a character that just makes the whole movie work. And I said from like day one when like the multiverse started becoming a thing in general, is that if any Marvel character or any character is going to make a multiverse movie work, it's going to be Deadpool. And we said last week when we were giving our expectations of this movie, I said, in order for this movie to be great, it's got to be an amazing Deadpool movie first. Right. And when I say this is the best Deadpool movie we've gotten yet, in my opinion, at least, like this was Deadpool at his funniest, his purest. Like I think he like the way he was like completely ripped out of the comics with like what his antics and everything. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool as RDJ is Iron Man,
right?
100%.
And it's just
don't bring him back as another character,
as Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. Like I can't picture anybody else being Deadpool at this point.
Well, it also helps that maybe not the first movie, but definitely the second one and this one, that Ryan Reynolds is a co-writer.
Yeah,
on this movie.
This is his baby.
Yeah, it probably has final say on everything. And the original 2 writers from the first 2 Deadpool movies, who I mentioned previously, worked on this. They brought him back.
Yeah, so they knew what they were doing.
Oh,
and I mean, and
without
a doubt. And the story that they wrote, and this was the other thing that had to matter, was just like I had to give a shit about the characters. And like I felt like, yeah, like with all the antics and comedy and humor, there was a part of the story that like I gave a shit about Deadpool and what he was trying to do. I gave a shit about Wolverine and what he was going through and everything. And their chemistry together was perfect.
It was
so
literally spot
fucking
on.
perfect. Their fight scenes, the car fight scene, everything like that. It just I was laughing the entire time.
The fucking Honda Odyssey.
Yeah,
What a piece of shit.
I will say this: I don't think I've ever seen a car fight scene as entertaining as this one was.
Oh yeah, with the Grease song in the background.
Yeah.
and they're
then-
just like beating the shit out of each other in the car.
And that car was full of blood,
Yeah.
holes, like
And the fight was, and the fight was going on all night.
yes,
You saw like
yes.
the lighting change, like in the sky, like just
Yep.
in front of the car, and it's just like, what the hell, could they have done to each other? And you just see the two of them covered in blood, laying next to each other, Wolverine and Deadpool just wrapped up in the
Well-
seatbelt.
Well, that's what happens when you have two mutants that have an unbelievable healing factor.
Right.
Yeah.
They can take all
They
the
just keep
hits.
going.
They can't die, well, except for Logan, but in the Logan movie. But in this variant of Wolverine, like, you see them messed up. Now, you mentioned Deadpool, handling the multiverse. Let's talk about his first interaction. If it's not going to be Tony Stark himself, but
Which I think is probably the most underrated
cameo.
cameo because nobody's ever talking about that. Everyone's talking about the other cameos we'll soon speak about, but Happy Hogan showing up. Oh,
Well, yeah,
He was the perfect choice to start with.
yeah.
because he's the director of Iron Man 1, and Deadpool, for that, at least that one scene, went to the secret timeline wanting to be an Avenger, and he was self-aware of the Avengers. And one thing that played into the plot, he's like, he just wanted to matter and prove himself to Vanessa after they broke up. And so
No. He wanted to prove himself before they broke up.
Oh,
because after he had gone into the sacred timeline, he then broke up. Vanessa and him broke up because of him not being part of the Avengers.
Yeah.
and it was Easter eggs galore in Happy Hogan's office. You saw the Captain America shield that was a prototype from the first two Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
You saw all the various helmets.
Yep.
You even saw that little spinny thing, that little desk ornament that
That
from
he
Iron Man
hated.
2 that he
Yeah.
kept having, like, yeah.
Yeah, he hated that
I
thing.
saw that in the background too. But like Happy was a perfect first cameo because I felt like he was always like the glue in the MCU. Like he was there to help introduce Spider-Man.
Yep.
He's there, he's here now. He's always just kind of like just showing up in certain places, like where like, okay, this is like how he's connecting to how this character is being connected to everything in the MCU.
Dating
So-
Aunt May.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for
He
sure.
gets around. He gets around just as much as Tony. So yeah.
But he gave him a heartfelt speech when he turned him down, and that I felt like that set the tone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I totally.
His
agree.
cameo wasn't just for laughs. It was actually, it set like what was gonna be like his whole story.
But that's the thing, though. While watching it, I didn't feel like it was a funny moment.
No, it was heartfelt.
I felt bad for Wade because he's just sitting there like, I'd like to be part of the Avengers, and Happy was like, you can't be part of us, and
He had a line at one point that was like really profound. Like it was like, I forget, like it was something like, if you're fighting for, like
you're not fighting for yourself, you're fighting for them.
for them. Yeah, and I was like, and I think at that point he knew Happy was right, and then Happy
Right.
knew he was feeling bad. He knew how much he wanted, and he just like said like, listen, I got to be straight up with you, and
Right.
gave him that whole speech. And like I felt bad for him, for Deadpool there, and like
Yeah.
that's what makes you root for him,
And part of Deadpool's purpose was saving his universe because the TVA, when they brought him to a location, he's like, oh, they're like, oh, because Logan died in your world, he was the anchor beam. Johnny, I know you have something to say about that. Your world's gonna die and that leads to the epic montage of him going to the various universes with all looking for
the right Wolverine.
and
Which
huge-
that's when we found the first variant of Wolverine.
the comic accurate size of Wolverine, 5'3", and they actually shrunk down the 6'1", 6'2" Hugh Jackman in that scene.
I was done.
And then after that, we got different versions of Wolverine, which we also got a Wolverine that we thought was not going to happen, but it actually did happen, which people are dubbing the Cavill-Verine.
Oh my God.
So for months, we've been hearing rumors that Henry Cavill was casted for something in the MCU. People were thinking he was going to be Doctor Doom. Not the case.
Which I'd be okay with if he was Dr. Doom.
Me too. But go ahead, Pancakes. You can deliver the scene here.
So he's traveling to various universes, the various versions, so we see him approaching from behind a variant of Logan. Looks like he's in a garage. He has the hair. He has the guinea teeth. He has the
And he's
jeans.
completely jacked.
Completely jacked.
Yeah, I was like,
and it,
I
like,
knew that wasn't him.
and-
Like,
but you think Hugh Jackman's, always been this jack, for the role. Turns around and it's
Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Henry
friggin'
Cavill as the former Superman, and Deadpool, one of the best breaking of the breaking the fourth wall in that scene. He's like, we'll treat you better. I'm paraphrasing here.
oh, then
we'll
those
treat
dick
you,
suckers at DC or
we'll,
whatever.
we'll treat you better than the shitheads down the block.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will say
That was
this
so
though.
good.
Even though he was in the movie literally for like 4 or 5 seconds, I really liked the way they made him look as Wolverine.
Listen, if he were to be the new MCU Wolverine, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I would not be opposed to it.
Not at all.
One rumor cameo, I'm surprised, in the scene with the various Wolverines, Daniel Radcliffe as one of them.
That never happened.
Was he? No.
No. It didn't happen at all. But that was one of the names supposedly.
Oh,
The rumors.
Yeah,
He
but-
was supposed to be Match. He was supposed to be Match. That's Patch. Sorry.
Patch.
He was supposed to be
So-
Patch when he's wearing that white tuxedo jacket.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be that one. Well, not supposed to be. He was rumored to be that one.
So,
People have always said Daniel Radcliffe should
So-
be Wolverine. I never agreed. to
so,
that, but-
so in addition to the 5'3" Henry Cavill, there's the various. Let me see if I can get them right. There was the Age of Apocalypse. I thought it was in the 70s, but I had to double check
was that
that
the one
one.
with the big hair?
Yep.
Yeah, that looked like that was super.
There's
80s.
With the missing arm.
There's a
Mm.
there's the dead-on recreation of the classic Uncanny X-Men cover from 1989. Hugh Jackman, the fact that he did that.
Oh, when he's on like the big
Yeah.
X crucifix thing or whatever.
We had him first in the original Wolverine color design of brown and yellow when he made his comic book debut, and Deadpool says, "Aren't you supposed to fight the Hulk?" And right behind, and then in the claws, I didn't catch it at full. You see the reflection of the Hulk right behind
Right.
him, and then the Hulk's, and then punches Wade, and Wade
Yeah.
goes flying.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
And a funny gag is that he got attacked by all the Wolverines or something in the different worlds. Oh, and we also had an old man Logan one on the porch where he shoots him with a shotgun.
Mm.
Yeah. No, I feel like those Wolverines were great.
Did I get all of them? I think I got most of them.
Yeah.
Pretty much, I think you got them all.
And then obviously the Wolverine he does find that that is in the rest of the movie is considered the worst Wolverine in the whole multiverse.
Good job, Wade.
And so going back to the when he goes back to Paradox, like that whole scene with Paradox, I mean, like he's like telling him the stuff, like what he's got to do and like how this was all working for the first time. It's like one of the best fourth wall breaks ever with Deadpool is when he basically like says like oh, so I'm a part of the MCU now, and like Paradox basically tells him yes, and he's like, excuse me one second. He goes off like camera,
Oh
scene,
my God,
goes
yes.
to the camera and says, like, suck it, Fox Pictures, suck it. I'm going to Disney World now, and he like punches like the
He
camera
grabbed
lens.
the
And
microphone.
he grabs the microphone off the camera, and he starts screaming like, "I'm going to Disneyland! Fuck you, Fox!" And I was dying laugh. That had to be one of his funniest fourth wall breaks. Period.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That was probably the best one.
Yeah.
What did we think of Paradox as one of the two villains in the movie?
He wasn't like. I mean, he wasn't like the main villain. I guess you could call him
No,
like the.
technically
he was like
he
the
was.
pawn
They
for.
kind of switched off in various scenes.
Yeah,
who
he
was-
ended up being the pawn. Of,
Okay,
like, the
yeah.
the actual main villain. But like,
Well,
yeah,
no. He became the pawn
yeah.
because
He
originally
thought he was the villain.
right.
He thought he was in charge, but he wasn't. But we've seen that before. So like, I don't think he was like the strongest part of the movie in my opinion.
But he also wasn't the weakest.
Yeah.
I actually, now that I think about it, I don't think there was anything weak about any
Like,
of the characters.
He wore his role on his sleeve. You knew there was nothing
the
much
beginning,
to him. Like
yes.
he was pretty. Not, I don't want to say he was one dimensional, but like you knew who he was. You knew what he was about. He wasn't leaving anything to chance or secrecy. He was one of those like I'm going to give the hero my entire plot.
Right.
Like I don't want to. I want to be the TVA. Like okay, like we get what you want, and he was who he was. But
Yeah, so then he basically sends Wade and Logan to he proves them to essentially Mad Max wasteland, basically all Fox waste.
technically the Void, which we did see in Loki season 1, but this was like a different part of it. I
They
guess.
made it a 20th Century Fox wasteland in a
Yes.
way as a funny joke too.
Yeah.
And that's where we meet Eric Corin, who played Cassandra Nova.
Supposedly, she was the only choice for Sean Levy and Ryan Reynolds.
Well, wait, I think we're jumping ahead a little bit because before we meet her, we see
Oh yeah.
a whole ton of characters.
oh yes.
It's like, how
Well,
could we
one of them
forget?
gets decapitated right away within like 3 seconds of a fight scene.
Tyler Mane returning as the 2000
Sabretooth.
2000 Sabretooth.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Would you have you as him instead of Liev Schreiber, or you want
Yes.
Liev Schreiber?
It always bothered me that Liev Schreiber took over from that original actor because like he was nothing like the original Sabretooth from the
See,
2000s.
I wanted Leave.
Well,
I liked him better.
I don't know.
But one thing this movie finally rectified was that the only time that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman worked together in an X-Men movie was that horrific pan movie. You might like it, but they finally got to work together in this film. But thank God for Ryan Reynolds making the first Deadpool movie happening, because a few days after Hugh Jackman announced he's retiring and he started Deadpool 1, instant regret.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's the one that been wanting to make this happen for years. Supposedly, when Ryan Reynolds and the crew of Marvel were trying to crack how to make this movie work, they just couldn't. They were at an impasse, and he didn't have. And he was supposed to meet with Kevin Feige, and he just didn't have the right story. And it got a miracle from above when Hugh Jackman, in his numerous interviews, said that he pulled over on the side of the LIE here in New York where he lives, and he called up Ryan Reynolds. And then I also heard on the official Marvel podcast, one of the producers, I think her name is Wendy Jacobson, that supposedly the script they had in place was going to be phenomenal. And then when they found out Hugh Jackman wanted in, they had a new script 2 months later ready to go.
Yeah, no, so they were ready. I mean, like Hugh and Ryan are like, they're BFFs just like they were in this movie. Like or at least by the end of this movie. So like, I think it was just like one of those like lightning in a bottle moments where, they knew what they had and they just got inspired and they were like, okay, we're going to we know exactly what we want for this movie.
Okay, so
But going back to that scene,
yes,
right? So, we had like all these like Fox characters from the X-Men movies show up, like Sabretooth and Toad and whatnot, Pyro. But then we see this one robed character.
I might have called this, but go on.
Yeah. So, yeah, you have actually. So, we see a robed character and he interrupts the fight. Yeah, he interrupts the fight, and Wolverine and Deadpool look up like, who the hell are you, basically? And we see like a blue sleeved arm like stick out from the robe, and I'm like, what? And then he jumps up or whatever, he comes down, he takes off the robe, and it's Chris Evans
Back in the MCU.
So he's wearing blue, and you're thinking like, okay, like holy shit, like the rumors were true, like they got back Chris Evans or whatever, and he's in the Void, but cool. And then he says, "Flame on!" And it's like, oh, it's Johnny Storm. It's his iteration of Johnny Storm from the 2000s Fantastic Four. Holy crap! And he wasn't even like a one-off cameo. Like he stayed with them for like a good amount of time up until they got captured and got sent to the actual villain of the movie, Cassandra Nova. And they had a interesting moment where he got taken out of the movie quite violently.
And they portrayed that it was Deadpool's fault that he set up Johnny to get killed the way he did.
Yeah, but man, like when he took that robe off, like it was like two Endgame theater moments in a row where people saw Chris Evans' face. We all went, holy shit. And then he said flame on. And then everybody was like,
right before he said flame on, Wade goes,
he's gonna say
Avengers Assemble. Wait, what?
Yeah, and then he said flame on instead. I was like, oh shit. Like I barely had recovered just from seeing his face.
So even though it's not total shock, total surprising that we got a member of the Fox Fantastic Four team, it was still holy shit, in the moment, because it actually happened.
Right.
How we got Chris Evans returning to his original Marvel role.
Yeah.
And
the only thing I wish, I guess if he had it, it would have given it away. Is his hair should have been shaved down.
Maybe
his hair grew, while he was in the Void.
But it shows that he's aged. One thing that New Rockstars pointed out is that when Chris Evans comes on screen, it's like teased but really quickly the Captain America music, but they don't fully go into it. So when
They
it's
want to tease you.
so
Yeah.
when they reveal it's not him as Cap, but instead as Human Torch, then then the mind blowing moment happens.
Yeah, no, so like, but they wanted to just like get like that that theater reaction. And boy, at least did we get it. That's
So-
all I could say.
I just want to say how they handled the cameos was done so well, and it forced down your throat. And to that one troll article we saw, fuck you, it was not worse than the Flash movie. So I don't know I don't know
just
what
about
the
to
hell
say,
you were talking about.
Who said
Yeah,
that?
Well, an article you sent to us that was just that seemed like a total
Oh,
troll.
not an article. It was. I think it was a tweet saying it was like the
Oh.
worst movie of the year
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was. That was a bunch of
But-
bullshit.
I will say this. The cameos in this movie were not just popping up just for shits and giggles. They had a point and a reason.
Exactly.
From the beginning that they showed up to the end that they showed up, it was all well calculated and it was great. Whether it was Chris Evans, whether it was Wesley Snipes,
Oh my
whether it
god.
was Jennifer Gardner, whether it was Channing Tatum,
Oh my god.
all these characters, it wasn't just a one-off, hey, blink and you'll miss it type deal. These weren't even, I don't consider them cameos. I consider them more like they became a side character because they were there and they helped progress the story further.
No, they were legit characters
Right.
in the movie.
They helped the
yeah.
fights. They helped in these scenes that they were in, all of them, and it was great.
Well, two of those you said were crazy to see. The Jennifer Garner one was leaked for a while. That was pretty well known.
Yeah.
So, but when Wesley Snipes came on screen as Blade,
And we
holy
heard
shit.
some rumors about him making
Yeah.
some sort of appearance too, but that seemed like a far fetched thing because where the hell has he been all this time?
and
Wesley Snipes in general.
and
But-
technically Channing Tatum's from that Fox universe, from a movie that never happened, that he was directed, he was committed to the role. But can we point out how the comic accurate costume he was wearing?
Yep.
And Spade, you pointed out that he nailed the voice, or he came close to nailing the voice.
I think he nailed it. It was super thick. It was very like even.
But that was part of the
Deadpool-
shtick. Like
Right.
that was the joke
Yeah.
that you couldn't understand
The-
what he was saying. I think he was putting on it like
Right.
too much on purpose.
purpose.
But
But it was great. I am so surprised that Channing Tatum was able to. I want to know is
He was ready.
how many times did they run through those scenes? Like how many takes did it take to do all that? Because I'm not saying Channing Tatum is the worst actor ever or even the best actor yet, but lately we've seen him in
Yeah, we saw him
Climbing to
flying
the
into the
moon.
moon.
Climbing
He
the
did a
moon.
really good
and he
job.
did a really great job. But to the acting that he did in this, plus the fact that he changed his accent and made it like a Louisiana Southern drawl type
Like a
deal.
Cajun,
Yeah, like a Cajun thing. It was, to me, I almost felt like he was better than the cartoon version in X-Men and X-Men 97. Man,
I just wanted to have been there for the phone call that Channing Tatum must have received from Ryan Reynolds saying, like, with Ryan saying, like, "Hey, Channing, do you still want to be, Gambit?" And his face must have lit up like, "Boy, do I!" And just like,
I'm in.
yeah,
Yeah.
'cause he was just so ready for that role. I could just tell on screen how he was. He put everything into being Gambit.
And credit to Ryan Reynolds and Wesley Snipes cleaning up an old joke from the third Blade movie 20 years ago that supposedly they had
beef,
yeah. And Wesley Snipes said it in an interview at Comic-Con that it was never true, but
It's not that he didn't hate him. He just didn't like him because of all the jokes that he didn't understand
right,
that
but
Ryan Reynolds was doing.
but it was so long ago that the fact that they threw it in, and Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool said, you never liked me.
Wesley Snipes was like, "I don't like you," and he was like, "You never liked me."
Now,
And then there was a similar thing with what's her name as Elektra, because she also showed up.
Jennifer
Garner. Yeah,
Sorry
it's like-
about Daredevil.
Well,
Daredevil's
it's-
there, but that's okay. Everybody laughed in the theater when she said
So
that.
if anybody doesn't understand that joke, it's because Jennifer Garner used to be married to Ben Affleck, who played Daredevil in that movie. Blah blah. blah.
Yeah, I kind of wish she did show up in that movie though, but I get
That'd be weird.
maybe they didn't want to be on the set together. I
Yeah.
kind of get that. I kinda get that.
No, I think they could have worked. I mean, they do.
I mean, they are co-parenting, so
Yeah.
Exactly. But getting back to Gambit, and Big Rim pointed this out. They nailed the staff, the cards, the the coloring of when he lights it up
Yep.
and
The
throws it.
kinetic energy.
The kinetic
everywhere.
energy. Oh my god.
Yeah, when he said like one of his best lines was when he was like trying to like get like information out of like Deadpool and Wolverine. He was just like, "You better start telling me now, otherwise I'll start dealing." I'm like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Let's go."
So he probably went through so much preparation for that movie that never happened, that when he got the call, maybe it was like riding a bike, like instinct kicked in.
He
And
had the suit
like,
ready in his closet,
Imagine- oh,
hanging up
man.
just in
I'm,
case he ever
I'm
got the
sure
call.
obviously he went through rehearsal, and everything you need to do to get ready for a movie, but and I'm just relieved that, in the scene when the three of them, along with X-23, Laura, help Wade and Logan, that they didn't get killed off, that their roles were given with purpose.
Right.
They weren't cameos, and you missed it. They weren't extending cameos, quote unquote. They had significant roles, and you could tell the actors were, probably had a lot of zeros to add to the happiness, but
Hmm.
I think Wesley Snipes made it no secret he wanted to come back as Blade, and he even had.
That's
we'll get to that. And he had a meeting with Marvel years ago. Spade, take it from here.
And that's why he said that probably one of the best lines in the whole movie. There's only been one Blade, motherfucker. Because there's been so many different versions of every other
He said,
superhero.
I'm Blade. I'm the only Blade. There's
I'm
only
the
ever going to
only
be one Blade.
Yeah. So
I was
that
like,
was
"Oh,
that was a
ooh."
dig at Mahershala Ali trying to put through a Blade movie.
Or even not even him, but
And
just like
Marvel.
Kevin Feige and Marvel in general for not making this movie
And they-
work.
and
And,
it-
and that's like, and just as a side thing, like I feel like the humor was like the fact that Marvel Studios allowed all of that like self-kicking humor, like in the beginning when Deadpool was talking with Paradox and and he got like Wolverine, and he's like, like, "Hey Wolverine, welcome to the MCU. You're kind of making it at a low point, but it's
Right.
it's better than nothing." And then like the thing like that with Blade, I was like, like that kind of humor, like that makes Deadpool. And I think I heard too that they knew like those types of jokes were like, kind of poking themselves and everything, but they were like, we can't take away from Deadpool's character by doing
Right.
that.
Right.
So like that's how like they were really dedicated to making this like the most pure Deadpool movie ever, in my opinion.
They knew that, to quote Kevin Feige from the Marvel podcast, those first two movies weren't in their sandbox. So in a way, they were playing in Ryan Reynolds and his team's sandbox, but at the same time, they were coming to their sandbox to work together. So they knew the key to success to make this movie absolutely work is like, let them do their thing. Let's get all the fun aspects of Deadpool, all the foul mouth, cursing, all the breaking the fourth wall, joking about everything, even if we have to make fun of
It's like
ourselves.
the essence of Deadpool had to be in this movie. If it's his first MCU movie, it has to be like Deadpool, like the most pure that we've seen out of the comic book, But speaking of Deadpool, he wasn't the only Deadpool in this movie, right?
No, he wasn't.
All right. There was, I don't know, there was like 100-something versions of Deadpool that we got to see.
There was even another Ryan Reynolds Deadpool.
Yeah,
That was Nice Pool.
Nice Pool.
Nice pull.
He was Canadian.
Yeah, of
Hey,
course. Oh, yeah, and
sorry,
the
sorry.
jokes too. If you're Canadian, you would have loved the jokes in this movie. And then you had Dog Pool.
Yeah.
That ugly
That
little
is-
adorable thing.
That is by far the ugliest dog I have.
It won an
ever-
award.
Yes, I
And
know.
It won
Yeah,
the
no.
ugliest dog in the UK.
Yeah.
I think
And
it
now
might
it's a
be the
star.
ugliest dog in the universe.
Poor Ryan Reynolds, but how many takes he had to do with that dog's disgusting tongue in his mouth.
Oh gosh. Hopefully that was one take.
No,
But like
it
stupid
wasn't.
scenes like that, like you just had to laugh at because that's just like such like Deadpool nonsense.
And one thing you probably love, if you want to take it from here, like speaking of making fun of the multiverse,
Just like so. I guess like fast forward to when like Deadpool and Wolverine are fighting the Deadpool. What do they call themselves?
Deadpool core. Right there.
Core, yeah. Just like 100, at least 100 like different types of Deadpools from all these different universes. Long story short, Lady Pool was actually Blake Lively and not Taylor Swift. Thank God. But yeah, no. So right before they started that whole fight with them, he just our Deadpool just goes on this whole spiel about like like guys like we tried with this multiverse thing, and it's just been miss after miss after miss. And the more he was digging into like the whole multiverse, and this is like another like self-depreciating,
Right.
joke. I'm just like, thank you.
We
Oh
heard.
my-
We heard you.
I was like shaking my fist in the air, like in joy, like thank you so much. I was like flinking back in my chair because this is all I've ever felt for the past like 5 years.
And
like
then-
it's like they finally get it. So, and then I guess we could talk about just that fight in general.
And then, but before that fight,
yeah,
the nerd out nerd out moment of the movie that me and Big Brim went crazy for. It was coming. We talk about Marvel not liking their
That's what I was gonna get
characters
to,
in
yeah.
in the mask, and they're getting ready to, after using Nice Pool as a sacrificial,
that
'cause
human shield.
He didn't human shield. He didn't have the healing factor, and the fact that right before Wolverine looks at Deadpool, and then we see him in the costume for most of the movie, but then before he battles it out with the Deadpool core and puts on the legendary cow. I think our theater went crazy.
With the blowjob handles, as Deadpool put it.
Yeah. He goes, what's the wind resistant on those?
You shove, you troll. You don't know what you're talking about. It looked amazing.
That was Deadpool's joke,
If-
not mine.
If there's a most famous cow in comics besides Batman, it has to be Wolverine. And the fact that
We finally got it.
Hugh Jackman was in the full costume, and they kicked total ass on it on the regenerate a few minutes later.
And
But
honestly, like I mean, like I knew he was gonna put the cowl on in some way,
Well, he
shape,
had
form.
to.
And that was like a huge part of the pull for me to even want to watch this movie. Even in the beginning when I was doubting that his entire existence after Logan, I was like, all right, at least he's in the yellow suit, and we've been owed his classic costume appearance like for 24 years now.
Right.
So at the very least, I'm going to enjoy that. And boy, did I. But I will say this, I don't think they should have animated his eyes the same way that they animate Deadpool's eyes. Because like certain scenes he was going wide-eyed, and I was like, oh, okay, it's a little much. We don't want to go like too cartoonish. But I mean, he did look really good in the cowl itself, though.
And then probably by this time, sometime this week, Like a Prayer by Madonna will be #1 back on.
Oh, totally.
Definitely on Spotify, definitely on iTunes or Apple. For that epic montage through the bus.
You want to hear something funny? Kind of going back to Backstreet Boys. If you look on their official music video on YouTube for that song,
You mean
Bye Bye
NSYNC?
Bye. Oh, NSYNC. I'm sorry. Excuse me. All the NSYNC fans are gonna kill me now.
Attack them in
they
the comment
changed-
section down below.
Yeah. Right. Bring it on. No, but like if you they changed the title of that song to include in parentheses from Deadpool and Wolverine. So I can
Did they really?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
Yes, they did. So I can imagine like the Madonna Like a Prayer, like also like just
I don't think
banking
so.
on that success because that's the first song you think of when you
It's
think of this
Madonna
movie.
though. I don't think Madonna would do that. I mean,
No, but I agree that like she's gonna be like #1 in the charts again
Oh,
for the,
yeah.
the rest of the month.
Oh yeah.
I gotta dig up that interview, but Ryan Reynolds talked about having to have a meeting with Madonna. Like,
Yeah.
like how do you tell, oh yeah, we're doing this crazy superhero movie that is foul mouthed and cursing and bloody and R-rated.
I don't think she would have ever said no.
I mean, I'm sure she would have known what like Deadpool was already as a
Yeah.
movie.
I mean,
so
I mean-
I'm sure and it's Ryan Reynolds, it's Hugh Jackman. She knows who they are.
And,
so
and her stuff going back to the 80s is R-rated and raunchy anyway. So
it's honestly
Exactly
she
why
fits.
would say yes.
She fits more like a glove than people would think. I
Right.
would say. So yeah, I'm sure that was a pretty easy conversation.
was it in the midnight hour? We feel the power.
Anyway, so going back to the story, I guess to like wrap it up, like they had a the big question I thought, like at least for me, was like, how is this going to end up with like the multiverse saga in general? Is this going to
Wait.
be an MCU shifting movie?
Before you do that,
Mm.
the one thing that we all, at least me and you, did not like about this movie was the point of the movie. How that one character who dies, what did they call it?
You talking about when Cassandra Nova died? Her part?
No. When the original Wolverine died, because he was the what did they call it in the movie?
The
From
anchor-
Logan?
The anchor.
beat-
Oh,
Anchor.
yeah.
The anchor was so like that.
Yeah, I
part-
guess we should have talked about that when we talked about the Paradox scene.
Yeah.
Like like Paradox when he's giving Deadpool the whole spiel, he mentions a term that we have yet to hear in terms of like the rules surrounding the multiverse is now there could be anchor beings. Um, Anchor beings basically like you're a person who's so special, who's so crucial to the existence of life that if you die or something when you're not supposed to, the whole universe is going to cease to exist. I don't think, yeah, I mean, that was definitely like the weaker thing of the movie. I get it was like a MacGuffin in a way to kind of get, or like a plot point to get Wolverine
Right.
in, but it was just like, okay, we never like heard about this in like either season of Loki.
in anything.
Doctor Strange never mentioned this in Multiverse of Madness. Like, he cares about incursions, but like, you don't. No one's worried about like if one person dies, that's the end of the whole universe. Like, I didn't like that. And Wolverine is that person, and not like Iron Man.
Well,
Not-
the only-
you know what I mean?
In that universe,
guess.
is Wolverine.
Well-
So that means that the 616 is going to go because
Iron
so
Man is dead. And
maybe
now
that's their anchor.
and maybe the anchor portal opens up and Doctor Doom comes out.
guess
It's
the-
still
I guess
Robert
the-
Downey Jr. I don't know.
I guess the only similarity I can think of is on the episode with Doctor Strange where he tries to save his love over and over again. Is that the major events in the MCU were called
It-
10 pole events?
Right, they were
So-
fixed things that cannot be
Yeah.
changed.
But those are still events. They're
Right.
not people. You
I
know,
guess
like
so.
it's elevating certain people to God tier when they have no business being that
Oh.
special, in my opinion. You know,
And I want to talk about real quick. Maybe one of my favorite quotes is making an educated wish.
Yes,
When Deadpool gave Logan false hope.
I'm using that from now on.
Yes.
yeah.
I just want to make an it was an educated wish that he could save Wolverine's world with help from the TVA, and that's when he slams on the brakes in the minivan that leads to the epic fight where they kick the shit out of each other throughout the night, only to wake up with Deadpool tied in the seatbelts.
So
But
this
going back to like the MCU, the multiverse aspect of it, right? I think the question in all of our minds was like, how is this movie going to affect, if at all, the greater scope of the multiverse saga, right? Is this going to be the end of is like the multiverse going to converge? Is the X-Men universe officially going to be into the MCU after this? And thankfully, and the big question is how they're going to handle Hugh Jackman. Is he going to be our MCU Wolverine?
Right.
Or are we going to see him pass the mantle? This is his actual final movie and have him pass the mantle to the real MCU original Wolverine. And thankfully, they managed to keep this movie self-contained.
Yep.
Because by the end of the whole thing, both Wolverine and Deadpool are back in their own universe separate from Earth 616.
Yes, but the MCU though, if you technically they are in the MCU because what did Loki do? He created the branch timelines, right?
Right. But there were still
So-
branches in like in Paradox's thing when he was showing
Right.
you know,
But
his multiverse thing.
but although they're not part of the MCU sacred timeline, they're
Right.
part of the MCU
multiverse.
multiverse
Yeah.
because of the
Right.
branch timelines.
And I do like the reveal that Paradox's operation, what appears to be the TVA, is a rogue element.
Right.
And he's operating.
Hence why their guys always wore masks and you know who they were or anything like that.
Right. I mean, and the thing is though too, the woman from the TVA that we saw in Loki, I forget her name.
B12, B15.
B12.
Yeah,
B12.
like she did tell them like before
Who was it,
they got sent back
B15?
to their worlds, like
B12.
you will be needed for some sort of purpose.
Right, right.
So like in my mind, before we saw that they were even back in their universe, I was like, oh, is this their moment where they enter the MCU? Or,
It's B15.
or is this like B52, whatever.
B15.
People know who the person is, but the B52, I guess, I don't know. But but I was kind of getting confused too, because like when they they get like or Cassandra Nova gets like Doctor Strange's ring, opens like the Doctor Strange portal, and I was like, oh, is this them going into Earth 616?
Right.
But they weren't even fighting in Earth 616 when they portaled into like the town and everything, and then they got sent back to like their world again. So I was like, okay, at least they kept it self-contained, where even if they didn't want to like do anything after this, like that's the good bookend to the story.
Right.
So, but we'll see if they come back for Secret Wars, because I think that's what B52 was alluding to.
I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to end up on Secret Wars, whether it's a small cameo or something. They're going to show up. There's no way. I don't think that there's going to be another Deadpool movie, but I do think that he's going to show up in other movies, or at least I'm hoping for it.
I disagree. I think there will be another Deadpool movie. Too early to tell, but I said let him appear in other Marvel stuff first. And we'll get Deadpool.
I think we'll see him in the next saga. I don't think we'll see another Deadpool movie within the multiverse saga. I think they have their path set for Secret Wars now, and then that's not going to be until like 2027, I think.
Yeah,
Secret Wars.
that's when Secret Wars comes out.
And then that's when I guess whatever next saga happens, the X-Men saga, and I'm sure Deadpool will have a pretty central role in that because he's pretty closely tied to the X-Men. So we'll see. But
So we spoke about almost everybody in this movie, but we didn't mention anything about Daphne Keene.
Yeah.
Oh, do you,
So X-23 comes back. Everyone knows this because she was in the trailer. Now, do you feel like they spoiled it? Because when I first saw her pop up, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I was excited that she showed up.
I mean, it didn't like.
I totally forgot that she was even in it because she's in the.
Well, I knew I didn't forget she was in it. I knew she was coming, but like I liked the role that she ended up having. She, for all we knew from the trailer, she could have just been like a one-off cameo of like during that one campfire scene, and that was it.
And she wasn't.
But she ended up being a pretty like she was. I mean, using the word anchor again, I guess, but like she was almost like the anchor to Wolverine's character. She grounded him a lot. He kind of like that campfire scene where he like kind of spills his heart out to her and like says he gives us like the backstory of like why he is the way he is, like how the X-Men died because of him and all that stuff, and how she told him basically like I basically grew up thanks to you, even though it was a different version of you, but like thanks to you, I am who I am, and then she walks away saying like Wolverine was like, I'm not the right guy, and she was like, you're never the right guy, but here basically
into your warrant.
Right. And so, yeah. So, like, she was actually very important. She was almost as important here as she was in Logan, in my opinion.
I agree.
She had a smaller role, probably, like less screen time, obviously, but she was very important to getting him to realize who he needed to be as Wolverine,
They kept that cameo on the wrap. There's probably rumor, of course, but they kept that cameo on the wraps into that last final week until they put it in
The final trailer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't mind it. I mean, I know like some of our friends and like other people on the internet were complaining that they should have kept her a secret, but it was like they needed to show like one more thing before.
Yeah.
And I think she was the perfect person to show.
And then she said
Who did show Toad? They needed one more pull. They're not going to show Chris Evans.
She said in various interviews that she took cue from Andrew Garfield to keep this under wraps.
Good job, Andrew.
And you know what? And it's funny because I was thinking before, I felt like the relationship that Hugh Jackman and Daphne Keene had on screen was very like
father-daughter.
Well, father-daughter, but it was very reminiscent of like Andrew Garfield in No Way Home, how he was with Zendaya, that he kind of like had his redemption moment with her, and like kind of like this was like that same kind of like redemption follow-up between Logan and X-23 in a way that like she kind of saved him after he saved her.
She told a funny story that when she got the call from her agent about the role, like she said she had a long day of filming, doing stunts, assuming it's the Acolyte. Watch that video in the arc, guys. She said she had a long day. It was like 11 o'clock at night. Her agent's calling her. She's like, I'm done with work for the day. Why are you calling me? And then when she finally took the call and said, they want you for this movie, she was so in shock that her phone went flying into the bathtub.
Nice.
And that's so funny.
And her, she had to do the rice, blah, blah, blah.
She actually did the rice.
Yes. Apparently that still works on smartphones. But anyway, to wrap this up, as we head towards our conclusion, how about that after credit scene that is very Deadpool,
esque. Very Deadpool-esque.
I mean, yeah, if you're wondering about like what the post-credit scene is, like, I mean, if you haven't spoiled yourself already by not watching it yet, but like it was almost, it reminded me of like the Captain America post-credit scene in Spider-Man where it was just a complete gag.
Yes.
Like you waited this long and like, yeah, like I'll give you this one last thing. And it was like how it was, there was that whole scene with like Chris Evans and Cassandra Nova, like where Deadpool was making him seem like he was saying all this shit about her, and he was like, no, I wasn't. No. And it's like, you think, oh yeah, come on, it's Chris Evans. Like he would never say something like that.
Oh,
and then,
he did.
And then he had him on. Deadpool had him on camera the entire time, like while they were going to Cassandra, him saying all the exact same shit that he was. It was so fucking funny.
So it's not his fault that Johnny Storm died.
Yeah.
And I thought Anna McCarran did a decent job playing the role of Cassandra Nova.
She was more menacing than I thought she was going to be.
There were nods to Professor X, obviously the chair and things, and you thought Patrick Stewart might show up, but they had enough cameos. Like, where are we gonna stick them?
If Professor X had shown up, I would have expected James McAvoy over, because we already got him. We already got
you got him in Patrick Stewart in Logan. So
in Logan and in Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
So
you
I would
need
have
that.
loved to have seen James McAvoy show up in the
But
MCU.
I think the cool nod was the Xavier chair from the X-Men movies.
Right.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the classic yellow hovercraft from the animated series.
We got that in Multiverse of Madness.
Right. That's what I'm
But-
saying. Like we already got that kind of stuff.
But in the serious part of the movies, when she enters the mind of Deadpool, enters the mind of Wolverine, and that creepy, fingers in the head, like,
Yeah.
and then you see Wade and Logan confronting their past, and the fact that she made Vanessa in his mind saying, you're basically a fuck up, and like, wait, she never said that, but she thought that. But like
Mm.
the mind manipulation was so well done, and she did a good job. And like I was mentioning earlier, apparently she was the only one they had in mind for that role.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I think she was like the best choice for Cassandra Nova. I think she really
The
was.
issue I have with it though is the fact that just like every other MCU villain,
multiple villains.
no, forget about the multiple villains. You could forget about her. She's not anything that
She's less forgettable than a lot of other forgettable MCU villains.
right. Like she's not a Killmonger.
She's nowhere near as definitely not like as high as Killmonger, but she's definitely not as low as like the Dark Elves.
Oh no,
You know what I mean? From
Oh
like
jeez.
Thor 2, but like
Dark
she-
Elves.
there were moments where like I kind of felt like her character having a little bit more depth than like a lot of other villains, and not a lot, but like other villains in the MCU.
Right.
So
And she was definitely better than the Mandarin in Iron Man 3.
yeah,
The real the
worst
fake,
villain in the
the
MCU.
fake one and the real one.
Yeah,
from that movie, but that's another video that we
Yeah.
can make.
Well, like the part where like Wolverine was like sparing her and telling her like if Professor X was here, like he would rip open a portal just to see you again and all that. And you could tell like she was that was like striking a nerve with her and everything. So you saw that she had depth,
Some sort of humanity.
yeah. And like for the type of movie that Deadpool and Wolverine was, like that's all I really needed. It's
Yeah.
because it wasn't about the villain, it was about
No.
Deadpool.
She was a good supporting role. She was a good.
She was a good antagonist. She was menacing enough, but there were moments where I was like, "Holy shit, she's kind of scary." And she got the job done.
And the foundation of the movie, which like I hope and it lived up to it more, was the chemistry between Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds. That
Yes.
the like you mentioned, John, with the on-screen fighting and the bickering, the moments where they have friends talking about their history, what happened in their lives. So good. Enough words cannot describe how great that was.
Yeah, lightning in a bottle, like I said.
Yeah. So basically, we just ran down the whole movie for you, and hopefully
Gave you
you
the cliff
enjoyed
notes.
it. We gave you the cliff notes. Hopefully you enjoyed it because we sure as shit loved it.
Absolutely loved it.
I personally believe it is the best Deadpool movie so far.
Oh, absolutely. Well, final question. Deadpool calls himself the Marvel Jesus.
Okay.
Did this movie save the MCU?
No. And you know why? Because this didn't really help the MCU at all. At all. All this did was show that this character was able to draw these many people to come and see this movie. It was a great movie. It was enjoyable, but one movie is not going to repair the 5 or 6 that came prior to it that sucked.
However,
So we just have to keep waiting for the next movie, which I believe is what? Thunderbolts? Or is it
Captain
Captain
America,
America.
Brave New
Captain America.
World.
So we'll see on Captain America. If Captain America is a hit just as much as Deadpool, and it doesn't mean that it has to be a $1 billion film. It just means that it has to have a great story and it's entertaining. So with that said, I feel like let's see how the next 3 movies go.
Yeah, but this
And
was a
then-
hell of a good first step.
Yes, I will
Yeah.
agree with that.
Very,
I will
a
agree.
great first step.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, I'll say that it did help. It brought all this positive attention. It was an MCU production. You read off all these great numbers. It's Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds working with Marvel Studios directly instead of adjacent with Fox. It put it brought back all the golden years in a way with this one film. And I think it gave him that kick in the ass that I've said before that it needed, that Marvel's finally back on top and we're going in a solid direction. And what we covered, Brave New World, that's the next movie I'm really excited from the slate of movies that we're getting. So I disagree with you to an extent, but it brings all the momentum and positivity back to Marvel Studios.
Well, the thing is, you can't say for sure too, because this movie came in the middle of
Thank
like
you.
the Brave New World
I was waiting for
trailer,
him to finish so I
and
could
the
jump
Doctor
there.
Doom announcement, and
Yes.
the Hall H announcement. So like everything culminated like with around this one weekend, and
yeah,
it's like you said, it can't be just this one movie saving the entire thing.
no.
It's everything that they're doing. You know that'll boost it up. But
Realistically,
this was a good first step.
right. It's a
Yeah.
good first step. But realistically, these other movies like Brave New World, it's been finished. It's been done. They filmed it already. They're just in post-production right now. So by the time that movie comes out, who's to say it sucks? Or who's to say that it's great? We don't know until we see it. So we don't know what they did or what they're doing to get to that next level of being better than the previous movies.
For now, go see this amazing movie we just talked about.
And on that note, what Pancake said, the destroyer of words brought us to a close. And I just want to thank everybody for sitting through this and watching it. And let us know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of this awesome movie.
Follow us on TikTok and Instagram.
Yep. And listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you don't feel like seeing our beautiful mugs.
And with that said, guys, I think we're out.
Yeah.
Roll
Credits.